Coming out is terrifying. I know because I've been there. Fear doesn't have to control your life forever. Why do we fear coming out so much? And what can we do to make that feel smaller and reclaim our lives? As a trans person, I lived most of my life in the closet. It wasn't up until the last 4 years of my life that I decided to come out, start my hormone replacement therapy, my transition journey. When I was in the closet, I felt trapped. Like I didn't have control of my life and I didn't feel motivated to wake up in the morning. I kept thinking like, what is even this life for? If I'm living so miserably, if I'm unhappy, I'm not doing the things I want to do, I would dissociate into daydreaming and just imagining what my life could be if I wasn't so afraid to come out, and what life would be if I could only just be myself. But that was my life. I want to just acknowledge and have a lot of empathy and understanding on how hard it can be. And I spent so much time doing research, listening to audiobooks, reading, searching the internet, and trying to figure out how do I overcome this hurdle. Before we actually get to the part where we overcome fear, take actions, and actually get to the part where we live our happiest lives, we need to unpack everything and understand what is fear? Why does it even exist? And then we need to identify specifically what is it that we're afraid of. And then we can help rationalize it and separate reality from what's in our head. And then we're gonna focus on taking some small steps that you can do today to actually get yourself on that path and living that dream that you've always wanted, which is ultimately to be happy and to live as your true self. Understanding why fear exists. A lot of the fear comes from our own brain wanting to keep us safe. Our brains are such a unique thing because it's evolved over thousands of years. It will basically want to predict the future based on previous events. If you grew up being very repressed, being told like, no, you can't express yourself this way, or you face some kind of trauma growing up, your brain will likely be like, well, I guess we can't be ourselves because remember what happened last time we tried that? Or remember the last time we had this experience? And so brain, right? I always separate brain from one spirit. I think that one spirit is beyond the body and our spirit is inhabiting our physical body. Spirit is limited to the needs of the physical body, right? We need rest, we need socializing, we need to eat, and we need to take care of this body so that we can be able to be our true selves and express ourselves. And so brain, right, basically is always looking toward how can we keep you safe, because your brain's job is to keep you alive. Remember that. And so knowing that, we can understand that fear stems from survival, is a way to try to survive. And what is happening, especially because industrialization and technology has moved so fast, our brains haven't really caught up to all the new information that's constantly thrown at us, whether it's TV, the news, social media feeds. All of that can seem very overwhelming, and it can even shift our perspective and our worldview. And it can really lead you down a path of being afraid all the time. I know because I experienced this. I experienced anxiety. I experienced fear to a overwhelming level where I get frozen and I get very nervous. It comes up in my body, like I get shaky. And if I spend too much time in that state, I can actually, get panic attacks. And because of my previous experiences with trauma, sometimes it feels like I'm living in that same event, like I'm experiencing the past all over again. But again, this is our brain's way to, try to keep us safe. Your brain will want to protect you from rejection, because back in the days when we were in tribes and hunter-gatherers, it was very important for human beings to be accepted socially, because oftentimes not being a part of a tribe, not being a part of a group meant that you were on your own. And if you were on your own, then you were less likely to survive. And to an extent that may be true even today, if you don't have a big support system, it is a little bit harder. But luckily, we don't have to, hunt for our own food. We don't have to walk for miles for water. If you live in a city or in a, modern place, you have access to food. You have access to shelter, hopefully. And so our brain is basically still operating under that old system when we were hunter-gatherers. And so this explains why we experience so so much fear. And then on top of that, all the newly added technology that is a part of our daily life can even accelerate that feeling of being overwhelmed and scared. And, I'm not gonna lie, the world is a scary place, but we need to understand that there is many things that we can still control. And as long as you're alive and breathing, you still have control over your body. You have control over the decisions you make. You have control over the people you talk to, the people you associate with. You have control over what you want to eat. You have the power to make decisions, okay? And thus you have the power to change your reality. And that's how I've kind of changed my own reality. And I'm still doing that. There is a book that I like a lot. It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nugent, I think. But this book really helped me understand exactly what I was telling you, why fear exists. Because now I can actually acknowledge my fears and be like, oh, okay, I'm thinking and I'm not being present, right? And sometimes being present is the best thing you can do. Like, be aware of the right now. Like, what am I doing right now? Right now, I'm filming a YouTube video. I'm in my living room. I'm talking, and I'm not in any real danger. I'm safe, I'm good. But next I wanna start identifying the fears, because if we can name what the fears are, it's a little bit easier to get it out of our head, and then we can tackle it and we can be like, okay, let's rationalize this a little bit. Let's go over some internal fears that you might have from coming out the closet. You might be feeling the fear of self-rejection, of maybe rejecting yourself, thinking you're not good enough, or having some kind of internal shame for the feelings of wanting to come out, for the feelings of, wanting to be yourself. You want to conform and you want to fit in, you want to be accepted. And so because society has kind of pushed people into being one or the other, like being a man or a woman and no space in between, if you want to escape the accepted binary, whatever you want to identify as, a man or a woman, a trans woman, just a human being, for our sexual preferences go, like gay or a lesbian, asexual, all that stuff, oftentimes there comes a lot of internal shame, and we could feel like, oh, I shouldn't be this way, like what is wrong with me? And sometimes we can even be feeling overwhelmed and having a lack of faith in ourselves to be able to navigate the upcoming changes in our life that we want to actually make, right? From here, I'm gonna move on to external fears, right? External fears are fears of the outside world, like things outside of you, right? That you might be afraid of. The fear of discrimination is a big one. People are scared to be attacked, especially given lately with the news and, the way that a lot of people are moving, aligning themselves with right-wing ideologies that are rejecting the freedom of spirit, the freedom of being who you want to be. The loss of relationships, possibly losing relationships you really care about, especially when it comes to family. I know that's a big one. Maybe losing friends, and that can hurt. Again, it's very, very unfortunate that some people, they might reject you, or it might take some time to actually get them to understand you and accept you. On top of that, safety concerns, being afraid of being like harassed in the street if you're like openly trans or you're openly gay or queer. And those are some of the external fears some people might have. I know I felt a lot of these, but now, that we've put them out there, right? I want to further start to rationalize the fears, and we're going to look at each one and be like, is this true or not? And what could be helpful for you is if you take what you're afraid of, get a journal out. It helps for me personally when I write things out, because it helps me take out what's in my head and put it out into the physical world, and I can almost get like a different perspective from it. Like, I can see it differently, almost from like a third person, like a separate entity that I'm now working with the problems on paper, and I can almost imagine that this being someone else, and what advice would I give to them? We'll take it a step further and start to try to rationalize those fears. And one way we can do that is by taking each fear, whether it's internal or external, and start separating what are your thoughts and what is reality. Let's ask, is the fear of discrimination, right? One of the external fears. Let's ask, is what I'm afraid of true right now, or is it something that my mind is predicting, right? Like, you might get discriminated. Like, I'm not gonna say you're not gonna get discriminated, or you're not gonna, get harassed maybe one day, but is that true right now? And do you know that for certain? And you could do the same thing with the loss of relationships. Do you know for sure that your family or your friends won't accept you? Like, it could be your mind just predicting that they won't, and you don't actually know the future. It's just your mind kind of predicting an outcome, right? Based on previous experiences. For me, sometimes, again, these fears, very overwhelming. There's a lot of things out of our control, right? What I like to do is I like to focus and ask myself, and you can do this in your journal. Sometimes I talk to myself and leave little voice memos for myself so I can listen to myself later, because I feel like it helps. I might sound a little crazy if anyone else were to listen in, but you know, what is crazy even? I'm glad to be myself, and if it helps, it helps. So never be ashamed of doing something that helps you. But again, asking yourself, what can I control? What is under my control, right? From here, you can really be like, okay, if I get rejected from my friends or from my family, I can always make new friends, and I can, choose where I want to be. I can choose who I interact with. If those people are being awful to you, then maybe it's not worth being around those people. Even if they're your family, if they're not treating you with unconditional love, if they're not loving you no matter like who you are, if they don't love you for you, the love was always conditional and it was never real. I remember this saying, if you lose anyone or anything for being real and yourself, then the relationship was never real to begin with. Because what happens sometimes, especially in social groups, sometimes people aren't interested in who you are actually, and sometimes they're only interested in what can you do for them, whether that's validating their lived experiences, validating their point of view, their perspectives, their worldview, validating each other inside this little toxic bubble sometimes where everyone is just kind of affirming their very negative worldviews, because being negative and wanting to fit in is something that a lot of people find comfort in. It makes them feel safe, being socially accepted. And when you go outside the norm, being openly queer and being yourself is something that is not always, heavily accepted. Sometimes the loss of some relationships is just a new beginning of brand new ones. There's millions of people out in the world, and unfortunately, sometimes queer people, they have to find a new family and new friends. But again, it's worth leaving your old life behind if it's something that is literally killing you from the inside, if you're unhappy, if you're struggling with mental health because of making other people happy, making other people comfortable. But at what cost, right? You're losing your life. You're losing years. We're only in this earth and experiencing this life for so long, and you might as well be happy, because again, the alternative is going through the rest of your life feeling exactly the same way you were. A lot of people end up losing their lives, and I wouldn't want you to lose your life, because I know I've thought about it a lot, and I'm very happy to finally start looking at the world in an optimistic lens and really shifting my perspective on my life and realizing that there is a lot of things in my control, and I can actually do a lot when I let go of fear, because fear is this limiting cage inside your mind that wants to keep you trapped. It's not always helpful when wanting to achieve your dreams, when you want to be yourself, and it's a scary world. We can take some small steps towards coming out. It doesn't have to be this big thing. And I want to just, start by saying that coming out can be in whatever way you want it. I literally came out to my family, like my siblings, through text. I just sent them a text. Like, I was making it this big thing. Like, I was so afraid. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna send a text, put my phone on mute for the rest of the day, and I'll figure it out tomorrow. I kept dragging it. I was like, when am I gonna tell them? How am I gonna tell them? I was overanalyzing every single interaction I had with them. Like, should I do it now? Should I mention it now? How do I even bring it up? You know what? A group text message is just fine. Again, you also don't even have to tell them. You can just start being yourself. Just start wearing what you want. You don't need permission to be yourself. You can just be yourself and be you. I was on HRT for 3 months before I even told my mom and dad. And yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna do this for me because this is what I want, and I have control over my body. I get to choose what I get to wear. This bodily autonomy, you get to choose. You get to have control. Yeah, taking small steps. You don't have to come out to the whole world either. You can also be anonymous. You can come out to Reddit communities online. I know the Reddit trans community is really big out there, and there's a lot of people who are very supportive there. So, you know, write a coming out letter, write what you're feeling and post it. Hopefully get some replies, and some people will encourage you. And, you know, looking for group chats, Discord chats, you know, do it through gaming, you know, change your little avatar to a transgender flag, and, you know, just start being yourself. Eventually, if you do it online anonymously, I'm sure you're gonna find other trans people that are trans online as well, and maybe that will help motivate you into doing it in your real life. What it'll also expose you to is knowing that there's other people who are experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. It's something funny because oftentimes, like for myself, it feels like you're alone in the world, and it's like, oh my God, it's such a hard thing being in this world. But then you learn how many human beings have such similar experiences and how similar we all actually are. And I find it comforting. There's a lot of people, and there's really big communities out there are very supportive, and you might even find some new friends there. And so I very much encourage y'all to do that. Hopefully we'll get a Discord up for this channel. I had one before, but I have a hard time maintaining things. You know, I have a full-time job right now that is very focused on survival, but I also want to do my part and help you all come out, because it is a beautiful life. It's a beautiful experience to be alive, and you should be happy to be here. I have a lot of empathy, and I have a lot of understanding for how hard it is. Like, I'm definitely not trying to make it seem like it's super easy in this video. I kind of just want to help guide anyone that's struggling to get out of that fear, and, you know, help them take some small steps to actually come out. You don't have to come out all at once. You know, just focusing on what you can control, staying present and staying focused. Your focus will determine your reality. What you focus on will determine how you live your life. So if you let fear be the main thing, be the main focus of your mind, of your life, you will spend the rest of your life being afraid and being scared and being sad and miserable. But if you start focusing on optimism and hope that life can get better, that you can actually get to the point where you come out and you become your true self, where you make new relationships, when you have people in your life that actually love you for who you are. There's so much good that can happen in the world if we could just be a little bit more optimistic. But again, I want to recognize also that, you know, social media and news and technology have a big role in invoking fear in us. You know, we don't have to be afraid the whole time. Down below, if you tried these journaling techniques, or if you have any fears I didn't name or anything, you know, I'd love to hear from you all. And if this video helped you, you know, feel free to subscribe and like the video, because it helps me out a ton. I don't get paid for these videos, so, you know, I'm just trying to help and put out what I have learned. If there is anything else you might need help with, and if there's something that, you know, you want to understand a little bit further, comment down below, because I want to make new videos, and sometimes I have a hard time coming up with new video ideas. I'm looking forward to really growing this community, growing this channel, and getting to know everybody, and, you know, just being present on these social medias. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!